Hello, this is IP Stories by 4IP Council, a podcast about innovation and intellectual property. Join us and you'll hear about the journeys through invention, creation, and IP understanding of our guests. Hello, everyone. I'm Fernanda.
And I'm Marta, and today we have the pleasure to welcome to our podcast Arnaud Dumas Rauly. Arnaud, you are a serial entrepreneur with a diverse background. Would you please tell us and our listeners a little bit more about your entrepreneurship journey?
I'd be happy to. Thank you very much for having me. My entrepreneurship journey, it's funny coming from a family that has always worked in banks. I think I got disgusted by the banking sector and math when I was very young. So I decided to launch my first company, which was an ad agency, during my last year of engineering school. I got hired at IBM and I decided it wasn't for me and I just wanted to handle my ad agency. And I guess ever since I've been an entrepreneur, I think my first paycheck that I've ever gotten was 2 years ago because our investors required me to be an employee to have all the confidentiality and all of that in there. And maybe I'm thinking about the background also. I am dual citizen, French and American, so I now work in the US. But I also work on a couple of different roles. So having been in vaping for so long, and now in cannabis vaping, I'm also chairman of the ISO standards on vaping products and chairman of the European SEN standards on vaping product. So heavily involved in the regulatory and standardization aspects of our industry.
And specifically about the Blinc Group, can you tell us what is the business about for whoever is not familiar with this company?
Sure. So at the Blinc Group, we manufacture vaping hardware for both medical cannabis and recreational cannabis. We decided to create the Blinc Group, coming from the past nicotine vaping world. We decided to create the Blinc Group to address a specific difference between cannabis and e-liquids for regular nicotine vaping. E-liquids for nicotine vaping are made with water. Cannabis is made with lipids. So those are fundamentally different components with different properties. And seeing a lot of the people here in the US use products that we had created for nicotine with cannabis, we quickly realized there's going to be danger and toxicity there. So we decided to adapt all of the hardware that we had for nicotine vaping specific to oil by using different materials, different designs, and of course patenting all of this.
This is all really interesting. And you mentioned something before that I really resonate with. I also have a double citizenship, so I'm Brazilian and Italian, currently living in Italy. And I understand that there are a lot of new laws and regulations affecting your industry that vary depending on the state and country. And how are you dealing with this situation?
So that is really one of the biggest issues with our industry right now is um, is that disparity in the regulations, whether they're local or national. Let me give you a very simple example. In Colorado, you're allowed to have different dosages of concentrates. In Louisiana, you can only have flower or vaping products. You can't have concentrates. You can't have anything else. So as a brand, it's really difficult to expand into multiple states and multiple jurisdictions. Um, Another big piece of that is on the regulatory side is that in 95% of the cases, you have to have your operations in that state or in that country. So imagine making cars to sell them worldwide, they have to be manufactured in that state or in that country. Imagine the infrastructure that you need to set up. Now, fortunately, we are an ancillary company, so we provide product to the cannabis industry. We don't touch the cannabis itself. So this doesn't apply to us, but it applies to our clients. And the reason I say that is because we are in a position where we need to find solutions for our clients to work around this. And that's mainly what we do with product development. So the labeling, for instance, is different from one state to the other, which is why we decided to create the ring system, which is a product that can be used to brand on the fly during production. So again, the goal here is to solve our clients' pain points and to make their regulatory and compliance battles a lot easier.
This is really interesting, and I can only imagine how actually challenging that is. And I really saw the idea of the ring, and I think it's a very good idea. Um, your business is going through an exponential growth, and congrats on the success, by the way. What do you expect for the next few years?
I think the next few years is going to be consolidation. The cannabis industry is a fairly new industry. And as with every new industry, there's a period of growth, a period of stabilization, and then another period of growth. And very often, in between each one of those periods, there's a downturn. The cannabis industry today is in that downturn. That's why all cannabis operators, all ancillary companies didn't have a very good year last year in 2022. So we believe that the industry is going to rebound this year. And by rebound, we're talking not only about the revenue generated and the wealth generated by the industry itself, but also in terms of technology. And I strongly believe that building an IP portfolio is going to be the way moving forward for a company like ours, an ancillary technology company, because that is what consolidation is going to work with in 2 or 3 years when we own a whole bunch of patents that are used within all the entire industry. Then why wouldn't someone want to come out and buy us? Why wouldn't someone come out and do an M&A transaction with us?
Mhm. I was going to ask you now about the industry, the vaping industry. And I understand you already mentioned before the differences between the nicotine vapes and the cannabis ones. But are they still competition, or what sort of competition do you have? And how do you differentiate yourselves from them?
There isn't much competition between nicotine and cannabis. Um, some people use the same product for both, and I can tell you they're not going to be very healthy. The two products are totally different. When we look at competition, we look at so again we make the hardware, so the vessel to administer the cannabis. When we look at competition, we have a lot of Chinese companies and a lot of distributors here in North America that distribute product made by Chinese companies. We're lucky enough to be the only ones that fully control the supply chain because half of our company is in Shenzhen, China, and we literally control all of the QA, all of the QC, and all of the different workshop and workstations where our products are made. And I think that is really the key to moving forward and dealing with competition. Um, as you know, a lot of these bigger Chinese manufacturers have no problem coming in and copying what you're doing and selling it. Or in our case, and I think this might be something we're going to speak a little bit about later with the ITC, having literally a Chinese company saying that we're infringing on their patents and in a U.S. court. So that was pretty funny. Um, but really, what we're really looking at in terms of differentiation is new methods of vaporizing. And all of that comes with IP, utility patents, design patents. It's really something that's important and that we've been ramping up for the past year.
So your company made the news lately with the impressive win at the ITC you just mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So let me first tell you what the ITC is. The ITC is a federal agency here in Washington, and led by commissioners who are nominated by the president himself. Um, the ITC also uses a couple of different public entities to preside over investigations. And ITC's role is to maintain the US tariff schedule and investigate, report, and make determinations that apply to international trade. So, how are patents related to the ITC? You may ask. One of their purviews is to make sure that any existing patents that are being infringed on do not get imported into the country. And so, in the case that you are discussing, um, S'more, who is a Chinese manufacturer of vaping products, was alleging against us that we were infringing on their IP. And S'more is a Chinese company. The ITC is a federal agency here to protect the US. So you can call this audacity of this Chinese company to come on our ground and try to hit us with an ITC investigation. Um, Really didn't pay off for them because the outcome, which was given first by the judge in February, then by the ITC commission 3 weeks ago, and the judgment basically said we weren't infringing. Not only did it say that, but we also managed to nullify S'more's patent by our aggressive defense in this case. And and keep in mind that if we had lost, all these products that would be imported would be blocked at customs. So if I'm sending 2 pallets of cartridges to my client, they would be stopped at customs and my client wouldn't get them. So we're very, very happy that we were able to defend this. And I think the work with a counsel who is specialized in the ITC, because ITC is very specific, um, was very useful. So thank you very much, David Liston and Ari Jaffes from Liston Abramson.
Yeah, this is indeed fascinating. It sounds like a David versus Goliath story to me, and with a happy ending, which is great. Has it amplified your need to develop a strong patent portfolio?
Definitely. Being in the weeds and trying to figure out, obviously, with the help of our legal team, because this is not something we're all good at, is really looking at the intricacies of the patents and understanding how we can get around a patent or how people get around our patents. And it comes down sometimes to the word. Um, so there's a word like tangential. Um, Tangential, can that be interpreted as tangential internally? So if you have a ball and you have a line, is it tangential externally, or are you talking about tangential internally? Just that difference can be the downfall of the patent, for instance. And sometimes when you have a scientific person talking about tangential, it's very clear in the mind how it is, but that sometimes does not translate into patent law. So that's really what we discovered here, and every word has its importance. So that's really the biggest lesson learned. Plus the fact that we can literally defend a lot, and finally, this costs a lot. It's expensive. We had partly a bad year because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I was literally going to ask you right now about that. As a startup, what has been the financial impact of such an experience?
The financial impact was roughly 20% of our revenue last year. And that's a lot. That's just the cost um, to go against this ITC case. And never would we have thought one day that we had to spend this much. But I think that when you're building a sustainable company and you're building a sustainable IP strategy, you have to be ready to do it. And if I had to redo anything moving forward, which we've actually started doing now, is to start creating a little separate fund in your accounting where every month you put a little bit of money in there towards potential patent litigation or towards creating a whole new technology. But I think that kind of squirrel mentality where you're going to be taking a little bit every day is very, very important for this. The cost is not only financial, it's a reputational cost because this company, S'more, is a $1 billion company, publicly traded, um, and they have unlimited funds. We're a small company. We have 27 employees. It's totally different in terms of how we deal with these amounts. So I think that the lesson learned here is that when we have a chance to defend ourselves, we need to take it and not let go because this case could have been done and they could have seen after less than a year. It lasted a year and a half. After less than a year, S'more could have seen that they were not going to win. They still continued going on, which brings to me that the other reason for doing this is to occupy competition and have competition spend so much time and energy on this that they're not doing their regular job. Um, and I really think that's what they were doing here, and that's the idea behind it. I mean, the other idea can also be that I don't know. They were trying to test these patents to see if they could go after some bigger cannabis, some bigger tobacco companies. Um, Again, I don't know. That's just a supposition, but I guess that's maybe what I'd do.
It's all about strategy, right?
Exactly.
Talking about that, do you have a strategy? You just mentioned that in terms of patents, you have a pretty solid strategy, I think. What are your strategy with other IP rights, such as trademarks, designs?
So there, we contemplated multiple strategies. One of them could be going after the quantity. So every time we come out with a new product, we want to trademark the name, all of, but we actually decided to do the opposite, is really focus on the patenting side and the trademarks going with simple products. We just launched a product that's called the Simple, SIMPL. No trademark, nothing. So we can change the name whenever we want, if we want. Um, and it's a regular word. So there's really not much risk of us being bothered. Um, but on the patent side is where we've really started ramping up and looking and searching for patents that we could potentially buy and patents, not only patents that we can purchase, we're in the process of purchasing two right now, but patents that we can expand. And I think one of the issues with a lot of other entrepreneurs that I meet is they get approved for a patent and then they don't understand the notions of child patents or family of patents and don't file for all of those. Uh, and our general counsel, Matt Miller, was very good at explaining that to us because it's not that easy. Um, and I think we're really embracing that family of patents for certain aspects of our innovation. And most importantly, how can these patents work with each other? Because there is definitely one thing that could be Um, uh, Very important strategically down the road is we could have a licensing entity and not even manufacture the product anymore and just sell a piece of that license within the price of the product. So it just opens up a lot of possibilities moving forward in terms of strategic implications for the Blinc Group.
It's really refreshing, I have to say, to see a startup investing in patents and having such a broad knowledge. You just mentioned different strategies, different business models that the companies could follow. What would you recommend to other startups and SMEs from an IP strategy perspective?
Um, don't ask your regular lawyer. Go to someone who is specialized in IP. I think that's really important. In fact, it's funny. Our general counsel is an IP attorney to begin with. So I think that's really super important. Number two is don't listen to what everyone is telling you. You need to really research and understand what's going on, because as soon as people hear patent litigation or investigation, oh, this is going to cost a lot. This is how many times have I heard this? Like literally once a month, um, and nothing ever happens, because all you need to do is just answer one email or one letter, and that's it. Don't be scared. Don't be scared about your positioning. Don't be scared about your products. Um, you should know when you created those products if there's anything that's a little bit weird. And also, keep in mind that once you have a patent, you can always modify it. You can always refine the claims. You can add claims. You can remove claims. Um, and sometimes, in terms of strategy, your patent can mean one thing with certain claims to go after one patent, and then you can change those claims once you've done that and go after another patent. Um, and it, it's exactly what we're doing right now, is modifying the claims to make sure that in court we have 100% success rate. And sometimes those modifications is one word.
That's so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing all that knowledge. So, this episode is now coming to an end. So, to conclude, do you think the US patent system is protecting enough intellectual property rights and innovations?
I don't think any state or country system is here to protect intellectual property rights. I think ultimately the only people who can protect them is yourself. You need to understand or surround yourself with people that know. Um, I mean, if you take one extreme example in China, you can file 50 design patents every day with one modification each. They're not even checked, they're just granted. Here in the US, you can file for a trademark as long as nothing in that same class is the same. You can file anything, they're going to accept it. It's all about the strategy that you're putting behind it. I really don't think that any system protects enough. You have to know the inside and outs of each system in each country to be able to formulate a strategy.
Yeah, that's very true. And at the end of the day, it's important that each company makes sure that they are protected. Um, so, thank you so much, Arnaud, for spending this time with us. It has been such a pleasure to chat with you and get to know you better. Thank you to all of our listeners as well, and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to IP Stories by 4IP Council. Visit our website on 4ipcouncil.eu to find out more and check out the links mentioned during this episode. If you liked it, remember to share and subscribe.